Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of the Wrestling Skull podcast on what has already been quite an eventful night for myself and Matt, just trying to get this podcast up and running. We've had lots of bad luck with connection and then some really unfortunate news from one of my friends who I know will be listening to this from a hospital bed. But thankfully he's all okay. He was involved in a car accident, so I'm gonna send a shout out to my friend Mark, who and I hope he's going to have a speedy recovery. But as luck would have it, I went there, I saw how he was, and what does he say? He says, get back there, get the podcast done, because I'm going to be bored in this hospital for a few days, so I need something to listen to. So I rushed back home, and we're here, finally. So yes, I'm your host, John Scott, joined as always by my co-host, Matt Essex. And Matt, we've, as I said at the top of the show, we've had some issues with connection, but I'm hoping by all the powers that be that we're going to get through this one and hopefully have no issues with connection as we go on with this podcast. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, I'm alright, yeah. I can only hope for the connection, yeah, but we'll get through it, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things. So like I said, want to send a massive get well to him. And as we go through to this podcast, we're going to cover a few things on this show, but mainly I looked earlier in our mailbag and I realised just how many emails we've had recently, so I want to get through the bulk of that because there's some really good ones in there and some funny ones, so I thought we'd spend a little bit of majority of time on those and get through them before next week comes, because I got a feeling the next couple of weeks are going to be extremely busy. As every week seems quite busy at the moment in general with wrestling news, and it's really odd, Matt, because normally this time of the year in the wrestling calendar, and I remember doing this podcast last year, and I've got to be honest with you, sometimes I was all out of ideas what we'd do week to week, but man, there's just been so much news, so much stuff going on at a time in wrestling, especially in WWE, that's not normally known to be this busy. I don't know if you feel it that way, but certainly just from news.
Yeah, I'd go with that because it's usually the time where they don't try so hard. This all goes into autopilot, doesn't it? There's once you go past WrestleMania and then you get past SummerSlam, then this is the kind of sleeping period, isn't it, in WWE? But yeah, for some reason now they've picked up on that and just decided to inject loads of stuff like Goldberg. Yeah,
exactly. No doubt about it. So yeah, we've got a few things that I wanted to discuss. We're going to talk to Matt about the wrestling show that he went to, the WWE one live show that he went to last Friday, and we're going to talk a little bit about UFC 205. Plus, of course, we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming Survivor Series, a little briefly, and of course, as always, Matt, traditionally now it's gone from Roman Reigns to always TNA, and we're going to find out where they're at this week. What episode we're at this week? Must be going quite far into this now, and will it ever end? And then, yes, we'll take questions at the end. Don't forget, folks, if you want to get in touch with the show, feel free to email us at the Wrestling Skull Podcast at gmail.com. If this is the first time you're listening to us, we have, this is our 73rd episode. On top of that, we have loads of other stuff that you can go back on. We've got interviews with some quite big names in the industry. We've also got our Magnificent 7 editions, which is where we give a countdown on different wrestling themes. We also have a wrestling arts series now that's just come around, and we've got one of those posted up, which goes back to 1951, a match between Lou Thesz and Buddy Rogers. And on top of that, we also have a King of the Ring retrospective series, and out right now as we speak, you can now get, we've now dropped the 1999 King of the Ring, so you can now listen to that. I've had loads of people going, when's the next one coming? I can't wait for 99, because apparently, and I think I vaguely remember this, Matt, when we went through this, is that 99 had such a really bad reputation online. Yeah. So apparently this is the one. For some reason, I've had lots of attention about this because loads of people said they're going to find it really entertaining to see what we're going to talk about during this. But, we certainly didn't give you dead air. So, yeah, hear what we thought about that by simply, you can now go to our our wrestling podcast, and it's down as King of the Ring Retrospective Series 1999. And folks, we've only got 3 more to go. And of course, Matt, I promised everybody that we're going to get them out before the end of the year. The end of the year is fast approaching, I must say. We're in November now, so I'm starting to get a little bit worried, but I think we're going to get there, folks. I do really think we're going to get there. So hang on to that one as we go. But Matt, I want to get to you first because you was in London. You was at WWE. Tell us what the show was and the brand and some of the matches.
Well, I did kind of go into this a little bit blind, but I had faith in WWE that they were going to put on a good show. Of course, it was at Wembley, which is always good for seating. There's not really a bad seat in Wembley. You can definitely see all of the action, no problem in there. But I was really surprised that I saw pretty much the whole Raw roster at this live event. Usually I'm thinking they will just give to some people a run in and run out, like, people that actually we haven't seen for a bit, or people that might be coming back, or stuff like that. But no, the whole roster, even Jericho was there. Jericho does not need to be doing live events, at this point in his career. So that was it was pretty great to see that kind of thing, because definitely I would say that it's almost, or if not better, than a Raw quality show. And in some aspects, definitely better than a Raw show, because they defended every title at this event. Of course, they won't change hands. There's a very slim possibility, but still, it's good to actually see the champions there defending their titles. Yeah,
and to Matt's point about it being a better quality show, it's not certainly not a standoff alone happening either, because I've been reading up on lots of wrestling reports on the house shows recently, even in America, is that the house shows seem to be a better presentation than anything that's going out on TV currently. So it's certainly not a standalone thing. This seems to be a regular thing that, you get to those weekend shows and they just seem to be coming off better. I don't know if it's just because it's not all about the TV and they're not worried about cutting to that commercial, or 2 guys have got to stand out and, that whole thing, Matt, when a commercial's coming up, the 2 wrestlers that are going at it, well, all of a sudden one of them gets decked and has to go to the outside of the ring, and they say, "We'll see you when we come back after the break," or whatever. And if you're sitting there live, like as we did last year, Matt, when we went to watch Raw, it was almost very disappointing, because the experience I would say you get from going to a Raw show to a live show, if someone and I've had this question in emails as well, and they say to me, what's the best to go to when it comes to this country, because some people have issues geography wise, like should I travel all that way to Manchester or Sheffield because Raw's there, or should I just go to the house show which is closer to me, vice versa. And my answer to that, Matt, and this is just from my own experience, is go to the live show, because as a live show, it's much better for you, the audience. Trust me. Raw is great. I know it's live and it's going out on TV, and it's a different experience to what you're going to get live. Trust me, because I think the live stuff, Matt, is much more for the people that have attended that night, whereas Raw is going to be about storyline. It's not all focused on wrestling, that's for sure. And you've got the whole TV stuff going around it. So you've got silly things happening. Like when myself and Matt went there last year, we were in disbelief when we saw, the wrestler who just got beat up in the ring selling this injury. And then all of a sudden he has to sprint back before the next guy comes out because the TV's coming back on. It was just an absolute joke. So it does spoil it in that sense. What were some of the matches that you had, Matt, if you can remember off the top of your head, and some of the results?
Well, they kicked off the show, I think, with a tag team title match, which would have been the New Day versus Enzo and Cass versus the Club. Versus Cesaro and Sheamus. So straight away you got like a glut of superstars there, which it was a pretty good match as well. I enjoyed that, obviously New Day retaining, and then like you just think that you're going to go through a slow kind of period, but then we had a couple of other matches, like they were kind of the lower kind of card, like Sin Cara and that. But then you get into a women's match, Charlotte versus Sasha Banks, and I wasn't really expecting to see Sasha there. I thought like they would be resting her after Hell in a Cell, like playing into part of the storyline that she might be hurt or whatever. So that was a pleasant surprise, and then they did a tag team match as well with Bayley and Alicia Fox and Dana Brooke. and Nia Jax, and they had special guest referee Emma. So it was good to see kind of back in the ring again. And then she did a whole little segment at the end where she had a fight with Dana. So obviously maybe that's hinting towards future storylines where that kind of friendship is no longer happening.
Yeah.
And then of course everybody's favourite was there as well. Roman Reigns was there.
What was that reaction like, Matt? Was it good?
I was going to say, as soon as his music hits, it's a chorus of boos, just boos.
Oh no.
Of course, he's defending it against Rusev, and Roman picks up the win. But then when Roman wins, I'm surprised how quickly the tide turns, because there's grown men standing up doing the Roman pose with their arms in the air, cheering. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, you guys are just booing him. Why have you changed your opinion on the guy? So the Roman thing still really confuses me.
Yeah. I mean, wrestling fans can be like that sometimes, but then I suppose, again, I've sat in crowds before, even at a football game. I used to go. I used to have a season ticket at Tottenham, and there was this one guy there, and he would always moan. We're talking about soccer, by the way, for anybody in the US, but he would always moan about a certain player, Soldado, and he'd say, he'd come off the bench, and he was always one of the ones that sang the song, Soldado, and then as soon as he comes on, it was like, oh, here we go, he's going to moan about him now that he's got him on the pitch. And then it would be something stupid. It would be like Soldado gets the ball at his feet, and it's like, yeah, he's still got it. And then, I don't know, something happened where Soldado got tackled. Oh, he's lost it. He's rubbish. It's that sort of thing. And I think you do get some audience that are they're just so fickle. They'll just go with anything. And maybe it's just the whole thing about, it's just become the norm, Matt. It's just become the normal thing to boo Roman, when we hear that music, and then during his match, and then maybe maybe people don't dislike him as much as we think. It's just the done thing now, similar to John Cena. Do you think?
If I was just going to judge him like WWE might be judging him, but sitting in that live audience, just at a random one that I was, and then you hear that boo and then you cheer afterwards, without a doubt, Roman had the loudest reaction there of that night. Whether he booing or cheering.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting. Cool. Other than that, Matt?
And then there was, of course, Kevin Owens was there, and Jericho was there. I think Jericho was fighting Sami Zayn.
Right.
Just Jericho was doing his usual thing, like entertaining and talking and insulting the crowd, I guess you could say. But yeah, they always put on a nice little ending match, don't they? And I think this time it was a street fight between Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins.
Right, okay.
Obviously, it wasn't going to be fair with Jericho, was it? Their best friendship going on, so a little bit of shenanigans at the end.
Nice, but overall, you was a satisfied fan going to the show.
I'm glad I didn't miss it, because I even went as far to buy these tickets on resale because I didn't want to miss it that much. And when I actually saw the show, I thought, yeah, definitely a good idea. So I highly recommend it. If you ever have WWE in your kind of neighbourhood, definitely go see it, because the live shows are top quality.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. I can't remember the last time I went to just a house show. It was some time ago, because this is how far back it was. That particular night, they had Harry Smith debuting for the first time, as D.H. Smith, as he was first called. So that's how long ago that was. And that was also at Wembley Arena. And it's like Matt said, when you can't get a bad seat there, that's a really good place to watch wrestling. I find it much better even than the O2. Just because of the way the layout is on a house show is normally pretty good. Did they do the whole thing, Matt, where they sort of close half of it off at one end, sort of thing, and you just sort of see a little rampway, and then they come out, and there's quite a big gap between the